What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 31 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
Ooh, big news
Yo.
today, so I'm glad this shit happened before we hopped on here. To be honest,
It is
Yeah,
some
usually
big
that shit
news
happen
today.
after the fact.
usually it does.
It does for real. But yeah, like you mentioned, some big news today. We also had a big trade a few days ago as well that we'll get into. Got little bit less than a month left before the draft, so we'll go ahead and get into another mock draft and round it off with another preview of the AFC North. But to start, what we teased a little bit, big move. Stefon Diggs moving to the Houston Texans, getting traded for a 2025 second round pick, as well as he went over there, as well as a fifth and a sixth, I believe, from the Buffalo Bills over to the Houston Texans. Houston making a lot of moves this offseason, man. How do y'all feel about that trade?
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, shit. I mean, it's been in the making, obviously. I mean, it's been just a lot of back and forth for the past few years, with just being, I guess the idea of Stefon Diggs being, a little disgruntled with his role or how he feels like the team is actually performing. So, I mean, is it a shock that they traded him? No, but shout out to Houston, man. I mean, they making moves. They trying to go for it, and this is the right time. You got a rookie quarterback, rookie contract. Hey, you got money to spend at this point. So hey, they had a good year last year. That's something to build on. So I think they looked at that and said, hey, time is now. CJ is who we thought he was, and let's go get it.
That's how I feel about it. More on Houston side. I mean, Shad, you even talked about it when we first started doing the offseason previews. As far as this is what you need to do when you have your guy, and when you feel like you have your guy at quarterback, you put the team around him. You try it, and I feel like they're doing it in a way that's not like irresponsible. You know what I mean? Like they can get out of this Stefon Diggs contract after a year, and it'd be fine. You know what I mean? So, and I think the Neil Hunter signing was great. D'Amico Autry signing was great. So I feel like it's smart moves. I feel like it's more like when you compare it to the two teams in that division, Tennessee's moves and Houston's moves, I feel like Houston's are kind of like, okay, yeah, I can see like a path there. Like Tennessee is like, oh, well, I don't, we'll see, but no, I'm excited to see Stefon Diggs there, but we talked about during the season, like it was always something behind the scenes going on there that they just didn't talk about. And especially how they played going down the stretch. Like he wasn't as involved in the offense going down like the last on that when they went on the 7-game win streak or whatever they were on. He wasn't as involved as he was in the beginning of the season. And I guess, they took it like that and say, hey, we could probably move on from him and just fill in there and get cheaper at the division. I mean, at the position, or at least less of a headache. But what were your thoughts, Shad?
That's my first thought is the last thing that you mentioned. You mentioned that Stefon Diggs wasn't involved in the offense, but he wasn't involved in the offense, or was he ineffective? Was he losing a step? Because a lot of people thought, I was one of the people that thought that the game was going to come where he's going to break out and he break out of the slump, and he didn't. And the last, I guess, thought we have in our head of Stefon Diggs is,
that drop pass,
dropping the pass on, one of the best throws of the night in the playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. But I mean, it's Stefon Diggs at the end of the day, at least what you hope that he is, at least. So that's, I mean, it's a great trade at the end of the day for the Texans in terms of what they're trying to do. Absolutely, like we mentioned, going all in. I think one of the last episodes I mentioned that they're probably going to end up being one of the media darlings, and now all of a sudden they're going to be the favorite for a Super Bowl contention outside of the Chiefs. But it is interesting also, outside of it being a great trade, I'm really interested to understand why. I understand going all in. Why were they so dead set on adding a receiver? Because they were also in on Keenan Allen. Obviously, they take on the Stefon Diggs and whatever trials and tribulations that he might be having. What with them having Tank Dell and Nico Collins, obviously Dalton Schultz, they brought him back. Noah Brown, they brought him back. Why did they feel there was such a need for receiver there? So that's one thing that I'm interested to kind of see is Tank Dell, is it the injury not or a little bit worse than we thought? Like what is it, or is it just purely trying to go all in? I guess it just, I don't know. It's interesting to me.
They were going hard because there were rumors for Mike Evans too, because he also is from Texas. So there were rumors that he was looking at them if he didn't go back. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just going all in, but it is interesting. It is for sure, because I think Tank Dell's injury. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I look at it kind of like the Chicago thing. Like, they need a veteran in that room. I mean, yeah, Tank Dell, we seen him do good. Nico Collins, but I mean, it don't hurt to have a veteran in the room to, you could almost say maybe not him per se to guide the receivers, but I'm just saying, like, to have a veteran in the room actually probably would make a difference and help CJ out a little bit. That's what I look at it as.
And it might be that, but that would be the reason of keeping a Noah Brown as well as Dalton Schultz. Obviously, he's a different position, but Nico Collins, he has his contract coming up as well. Nico Collins has been around for a few years now, so it's just interesting. It'll be interesting to see, especially as we get closer to the season, what they'll do with Tank, and then it begs to differ. Are they still going to be looking at that position in the draft too? Because like Cass said, you can get out of that. You can get out of the Stefon Diggs next year. So if you do, or if things go south or go sour, because it's now, I mean, just judging off history, leaving Josh Allen, who was a top 3 quarterback in the league, leaving the Vikings, and it seems both times on disgruntled terms.
Yeah.
There is a possibility for things to go sour. So what are they still looking for a receiver? Is that something that's high on their board, or in terms of draft status? So that'll be interesting to watch as well. But I mean, on the Buffalo side, I think Brandon Ayuk and well, maybe less T. Higgins, but Brandon Ayuk especially comes into play there, and a thing to watch. Obviously, they can sign him to a contract that can fit into whatever cap situation they're trying to do, because obviously they've been shedding a lot of contracts. But what do y'all think on the Buffalo side?
I mean, I already said before, I ain't like they all season to begin with. I mean, so I'm gonna stand by that. I mean, who you? I mean, what is their I guess what's their draft position right now? Like 19, 20. God damn.
Yeah.
I was thinking about them trying to, I mean, it's still available to move up and whatnot, but I mean, they need a receiver. But I like the idea of, possibly trying to get a Brandon Ayuk or something of that nature. But I mean, at the end of the year, they had been trying to, I guess, they established a run a little bit more. So my only thing is, I just don't. We talked about this before. The Buffalo Bills do good when Josh Allen is playing within rhythm, not trying to be hero. Now, without a star receiver, I mean, what is he gonna look like? Is he gonna try to force everything? So that is my only question about him at this point.
Yeah. Or could it be the other way around, where he kind of forced to spread the ball around more? When you don't have that guy like Stefon Diggs that you're trying to force the ball to, like he does sometimes. Will he look better from that? Will he play within an offense where anybody's an option? We'll see what Joe is cooking up over there as OC, but I think definitely receiver Brandon Ayuk could be good there. Well, he would be good. No, it's not could be. But I mean, you're sitting at 28 in the draft. A lot of people today, were like, "Oh, they should trade up. They should trade up." Realistically, coming from 28 is very tough to do when there are other positions to fill, especially on that defense moving forward. So I don't see how they can move up too far. Some talk was today about moving into the top 15, top 10. Like I don't know. I don't know why they would feel the need to move that much up. to get a receiver right. You can move up a little bit maybe if BTJ is there at like 14, maybe whatever that is in the teens. But like at this point, you kind of just got to fill out your roster and just roll with it. Just trust your offense this season. This is already a cap shedding season, like a reset, soft reset of an off season. So you kind of just go with that and move forward. So with Buffalo, I mean, it kind of just falls in line with what they were doing already this offseason. So not too surprising.
Honestly, I had to disagree with y'all, and the sentiment that Buffalo, outside of the receiver room, number one, we think of the names that they've lost, but we also have to put into consideration who's replacing number two, the players that have already been playing. So, for example, they lose Trey White. Well, they had already traded for Rasul Douglas last year. Trey White was obviously out, basically been out the past 2 seasons. So, I mean, you're still looking at a cornerback room of Rasul Douglas, who played well over the past 2 seasons. Khair Elam, who's been a little bit of a disappointment for them, but he was a former first round pick, as well as Taron Johnson, who was second team All Pro last year in the cornerback room. So, at safety, you bring over Taylor Rapp, and who's been a starter in this league and is a good player. I don't know why you're scratching up your face. He's a good player.
He got hurt. He got hurt last season, but yeah.
And then you also got Mike Edwards as well, who's been a good safety for the Kansas City Chiefs as well. So I mean, it's not like obviously it's a drop off from Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, but they've also been missing. I mean, you got DeMar Hamlin over there too.
Hey, whoa.
No disrespect, but you've got that over there. In terms of their offensive line, I mean, they solidified their offensive line, brought in Spencer Brown, re-signed, Deion Dawkins.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the receiver position, this is really a team. They can still make some noise. They still got Ed Oliver. Greg Russo, obviously another year of development from him. Daquan Jones is still there. And Micah Hyde is still on the free agent wire. Like, it's not like there's still a possibility maybe that he comes back. There's other, this offseason isn't over as well. So there's still possibilities for veteran signings. But, for the stuff that people say that they've lost, I think people aren't realizing how deep this team was, because think about all the injuries that they had last year. They were still a top 10 defense. They lost damn near everybody. They lost all their linebackers. Obviously, they lost Trey White. Had to trade for Rasul Douglas mid-season. So I mean, I just think that we're Buffalo.
So what are you saying? Like, you want them to focus on this receiver?
I think they might. This might be their opportunity to trade up. Obviously, if they make a big trade up, in terms of maybe sending an extra first rounder or an extra second rounder from next year to go get a Rome Odunze if he drops to or at number 8. The Falcons have been a position that Falcons have been talked about to be getting a defensive player. Obviously, an edge rusher. Some people have been mocking them to Dallas Turner there. Obviously, Latu has been a person as well that have been mocked to the Falcons. That's right before the Chicago Bears pick, number 1. The Falcons could still possibly get Latu or a verse at the back end of the first round, and then you pick up an extra first rounder next year. So you have that quarterback in the second year or the year before you can get out of the Kirk Cousins contract. So that's something that I would be looking at if I'm Buffalo. Like I said, jump in Chicago and getting Rome Odunze. So I really think that that's something they can do. And then you still have veteran signings that you can make. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom for Buffalo like a lot of people think it is. I mean,
it's definitely a soft reset. Like, they're still going to compete. You still got Josh Allen at the end of the day, and yeah, the roster's still good. But is like, and I'll quote Nick Wright on this from First Things First. Like, he said that this season was about this iteration of the Bills team, and as we've seen this all season, that iteration of the Bills team is completely gone now. Like, it really is. And you kind of it's not a starting over, but it's a, redirection. So,
and I also think that, including myself, we should probably learn from history. Obviously, Josh Allen is not Patrick Mahomes, but we just saw Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs do a soft reset. Got rid of Tyrann Mathieu, even though they were obviously a champion by this point. Got rid of Tyrann Mathieu, got rid of Tyreek Hill. Let go of Frank Clark and some of their other Shavaris Ward, who ends up going and becoming All-Pro. In San Fran. And here they are, back-to-back champions. Obviously, once again, I'm not saying that Josh Allen is Patrick Mahomes, but, it's still Josh Allen. Like, at the end of the day, we ain't seeing too many, aside from Joe Burrow, who keeps getting hurt. It seems like the top three quarterbacks, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, are getting in the playoffs every year. So I would go ahead and go for it. I thought that they should have went for it and tried to trade for somebody last year, like a D-Hop. If they could get Devontae Adams, I don't know why the Raiders at this point would keep Devontae Adams, but we'll see. But aside from the Stefon Diggs trade, there was another trade that occurred since the last time we did this. And your boy going from the Eagles to the Jets, Haasan Reddick.
Speak up, Chris.
Trash.
Oh, he trash now.
That's trash.
No, the trade, not him. Hell no, not him.
How do y'all feel about, obviously, like I said, Haasan Reddick got traded to the New York Jets. Surprisingly, there has not been a contract signing or a contract extension that was tied to it just yet. But the biggest headline coming from it is, number one, the Jets kind of doing their same thing version of going all in. And then Haasan Reddick saying that, the NFL ain't ready. How do y'all feel about that and what the Jets look like moving forward?
But
what do you think about it from the Eagles' perspective, Chris?
I mean, I understand it. My only issue is the biggest issue that we had last year was depth. And you just got rid of it. So that tells me that either you expect
Nolan Smith
to step the fuck up, and you have high hopes for Bryce Huff. But also, I believe that also tells us where they're going in the draft. Because again, our defense in general, the way we play, how we generate the pressure is a lot of rotation. We rotate a lot of our pieces, a lot of our guys in and out. Keep them fresh. But last year, you seen an uptick in snaps from Sweat. Seen an uptick in snaps from Haasan Reddick. And Nolan Smith didn't play a lot last year. And so I felt like they should have kept them. That's just me being a homer, an Eagle fan, because especially with just the rotation, because that's how we got to the Super Bowl. It was just constant rotation on D linemen. But Howie, I guess his decision was to go younger, which I mean can't get mad at. But you are banking and putting all your eggs in one basket and believing that Nolan Smith is going to make that leap. We haven't seen it yet. But I like I said, I understand it. I get it. Personally, I wouldn't have did it, but I get it. I get what they're doing.
And I get that. Nolan kind of started playing a little bit of an uptick towards the end of the season, but you would think that with the change in defensive philosophy, defensive coordinator, things might be a little different. Maybe that's what they're banking on. Maybe they're banking on better development on that aspect. But to your point, the rotation, well, before I start on that, I do once again talking about finding something interesting is Haasan Reddick hasn't been able to find a home. For somebody that's been, a double-digit sack artist for the past few years, back to back, for him to go from the Cardinals, obviously they were kind of misusing him, trying to use him as a linebacker or inside linebacker, outside linebacker, hybrid, however you want to do it, until his final season. Then going from Carolina, and then, we assume we don't know what the hell's going on over there, and then obviously landing with the Eagles, and then ultimately landing with the Jets. Obviously, there has been a little bit of rumors. Some of it sounds like nonsense, talking about he was hunting for sacks to get a higher payday, which, I mean, is that not what he's supposed
every
to do?
defensive end does.
But I do find that interesting. But on the Eagles front, I mean, still Bryce Huff is maybe not just as productive in terms of sack count, but in terms of pressure percentage and stuff like that, he is just as productive. Obviously, if you get a big jump from Nolan Smith, or even a jump from Nolan Smith, now you have a solid 3 defensive in rotation, and then whatever happens from veteran signings, if Brandon Graham, if they decide to go with another route, or in the draft decide to get another guy, you already have that three set rotation, so that will be interesting to watch. But on the New York side, I mean, like we say, going all in, I just don't know. Like you said, it doesn't necessarily make too much sense why they wouldn't stick with the younger route. But you do have Johnson, who was a first rounder, and Will McDonald, who was a first rounder, that are young. So maybe that's a reason why they didn't lock themselves into a contract with either Bryce or Haasan Reddick to this point. Maybe they're hoping for some more development from them, and then once Haasan Reddick moves on, so that'll be interesting to watch. But I mean, if there's any time to strike, it's now. Obviously, we just talked about Buffalo in division, losing a all pro caliber receiver. The Jets got it. This is their time. I mean, it would be nice also if Zach Wilson was, not leaving, and they could actually hand it off to him. It would be even better, in my opinion.
I think this just, it just highlight the injury from last year. I mean, I think they feel the pressure to go all in, because last year, if he would have played, whether they did good or not, they would have been able to see what they got as a team in general. And he to get hurt 3 plays in, you don't know what your team could have looked like. You can almost just picture it. It's like, we have to do this. We have no choice. We can't just sit back. That's the only thing I can think of. They feel the pressure of, like, we got to do it. Like, he might get hurt again. We don't know. Like, I think that's the situation they really in.
What say you, Cass?
Oops, I missed that one. But yeah, it's interesting. The decisions that Howie making this off season is definitely different in a philosophy standpoint. But at the same time, they're kind of in the boat where you chose to stick with your coach and bring in new coordinators. So you got to kind of just go with what they feel like at this point and kind of roll with it. And I mean, I think this is a signing that from the Jets that, I mean, it's just a we'll see. At this point, if you are Haasan Reddick, I know he wants his money, but at the same time, I wouldn't rush to an extension, especially with this type of team and how it's built. Because this is the type of team where
I would on that turf, boy.
That's a good point. That's a great point. But with how it's built, you go there for this window to see if you can do something. But I mean, he's not getting younger. But I feel like I feel like it's not a absolute that he will sign that extension. So with the Jets, why not? You know what I mean? Why not?
I do also think for the Jets, I mean, they've been this offseason, we talked about it going all in, but they're not just making dumb moves. Kind of like you said about the Texans, they're not locking themselves into long-term moves as well. So it's not hindering them in the future. So if it does blow up, they're all good to move on next year, move on from Aaron Rodgers, obviously move on from Robert Saleh. So I think this offseason has been much more smart and calculated, especially considering last season where they just brought in Randall Cobb and there's rumored to be Devontae Adams, but they ended up getting Alan Lazard. It was just
they were just
David
they were doing whatever,
whatever
last year.
They were just doing like they said, doing whatever Aaron wanted. I would have liked to see them move on from Hackett but
that ain't gonna happen. That wasn't gonna happen. Not yet.
But obviously we started off with the big moves. That kind of took the news over the past couple days. But moving into our previews of division by division, AFC North, man, we got the reigning MVP, best team in the league last year. In the regular season last year. But a great division, kind of top to bottom. Obviously, with Joe Burrow being hurt, the Bengals still went 9-8. Got the Steelers at 10-7. They made some big moves. Browns at 11-6 made some decent moves as well. But starting off with the Ravens, man, 13-4. They finally got the big dog, Derrick Henry, to come over there. Obviously, they lost their defensive coordinator. Really a bunch of losses. Patrick Queen, Jadeveon Clowney, Geno Stone, Gus Edwards, OBJ, Devin Duvernay, Morgan Moses, who they traded over to the Jets, Kevin Zeitler, John Simpson, and Ronald Darby. How do y'all think, based on last season and moving forward, what do you guys think the outlook is for the Ravens, and where do you guys think they go in the first round? Where do you think they should go?
Yeah, where they should go. I think they will take a little bit of a step back as far as the dominance that happened last season in the regular season. And that's to be expected with the defensive changes. They hire in-house, which is cool. But we'll see if they can keep that up. I do like them making sure that they re-signed Justin Madubuike, and keeping that front kind of like maybe you can go, and I think I'll talk about this too in a minute, but maybe you can go edge rusher to kind of replace the production of Clowney, because he did have one of his most productive seasons there at 9.5 sacks.
His Kobe
that's
season.
What he said. So maybe you look to replace that on defense. It's tough because you can go either way. You can also go wide receiver and try to replace whatever kind of production or lack of production you got from OBJ and kind of build through that, because you have a decision to make soon with Bateman about his 5th year, which you probably at this point would decline it. So it's like, well, do you try again? Try to go that well again and try to get a late round receiver and try to strike gold and try to help Lamar going forward. So those are the two main positions I would look at if I were them. Of course, you could go just crazy and go Xavier Worthy in the first round and give Lamar a crazy option. I don't think that happens. But I think a receiver similar to, honestly, I wouldn't mind playing off of what they have already. I would not mind Keon Coleman type of receiver, Donnie Mitchell type receiver, outside receiver going there. And they'll be available at pick 31 or whatever they had. Or you could go edge and go with a guy I don't know if Chop will be there, but he might be. It's very possible that he is. And try to replace that possession on that front. So one of those, but it's still good for the Ravens. They still got the MVP, 2-time MVP. So
yeah, speak up, Chris.
I mean, shit, if these motherfuckers do what they supposed to do, we ain't even had this conversation, man. They built on running that damn ball, and that's why they went to go get Derrick Henry.
Fair.
I don't think they're going to receiver. I think they're going defense. They got a lot. I ain't gonna say a lot to replace, but most of the players that left were on the defensive side. So I would say edge. I mean, I would even say the DB of some sort. But I mean, we seen the production from their offense. It didn't matter what running back they had better. They had production until they decided they didn't want to run the ball no more for whatever reason. You put Derrick Henry back there, I mean, what the fuck you gonna do? That's why I don't think I understand, maybe going receiver, and I wouldn't hate it, but for them in general, how their offense is set up, they don't have to do that. And their offense is still gonna be successful. They still got Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
They still got Flowers. I mean, they got playmakers that Lamar can throw to. And then you got Derrick Henry in the back. I mean, they need to go defense, in my opinion. So, I mean, I could see them getting a DN, maybe a verse. It just depends. I mean, you've been seeing a lot of just who's gonna fall, who's gonna trade back.
It's tough.
It's a lot of DNs in this draft.
It's tough to see who's going.
It's very very possible for them to get some right. So, but I think they're going. I definitely think they're going defense.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited. I wish that the Ravens would have gotten Derrick Henry like they were closer during the trade deadline and really seeing what it was like. But on top of getting Derrick Henry back, getting Derrick Henry finally, Keaton Mitchell coming back, I think will be good eventually. Obviously, it's going to take him some time to get right, but obviously with Derrick Henry there. So I also can see them. I mean, they still have Justice Hill, but I can see them getting a running back at some point in the draft. But I still think they need to get another receiver. Honestly, they've shown, DB would be a position, cornerback if they could get one, but I don't know. I don't. If we're by that point in time, we're talking about maybe Cooper DeJean from Iowa or Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I think that they can get better value with a receiver like A.D. Mitchell or Keon Coleman, maybe if you on a trade down. But excuse me, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, Zay Flowers ain't that. And that's going back. That's going back to what it was before. Another sneaky big addition possibly could be Andrew Voorhees, who last year they picked up late in the draft. I don't remember if he went undrafted or not, but he was a projected early round pick, first, second rounder that ended up tearing his ACL during the draft process. So that's something to watch as well. Replacing Simpson that went over to the Jets as well, I believe. But they've also shown another reason that I would say leaning against DB is because they picked up a Ronald Darby, Rock Ya-Sin, had Brandon Stevens break out last year and still played well. So, I just think that they've done a good job of rotating in corners around, Marlon Humphrey. Obviously, they've still got Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams coming back fully healthy next year. And then, Trenton Simpson, they drafted him last year from out of Clemson. So I'm interested to see how he plays because he started to play a little bit towards the end of the season, but interested to see how he fills in for Patrick Queen. But I think whatever losses that they had defensively, because it's definitely going to be a little different. Yeah. Obviously, new defensive coordinator, new players starting in different positions. I think they can make up with the explosiveness on offense if they do add a receiver, which is another reason why I would go for that. But
Kyle Hamilton's so fun.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton is nice. The sneaky defensive player of the year candidate for next year, for real. But moving to the next team, second team in the division, the Cleveland Browns. Not many losses. The biggest loss is Joe Flacco, which, I mean, you can say is a huge loss just judging from how the quarterback play evolved throughout the entirety of the season. You can make an argument that Joe Flacco was the best quarterback for the Browns last year. But you do get, hopefully, Deshaun Watson fully healthy. So that's as big an addition as you possibly can
get. That's the big addition.
Jameis Winston coming over from...
biggest addition is Nick Chubb coming back, bro.
Well, that's...
we'll see.
Still left to be said when he's coming back. But, they did pick up Deontay Foreman and Naheem Hines as well, who's also rehabbing from his off-season injury last year. But probably the biggest acquisition on their side is Jerry Jeudy, who they also extended from the Denver Broncos. What do you guys think, they do move in terms of the first-round pick this year, and then how do you think their outlook is moving forward?
Well, they don't have a first-round pick, do they?
Yeah, they traded it.
Yeah.
Trash.
So their first pick.
No, like you said, not much change with this team. They're kind of in a run it back and see if Deshaun can create some magic. That's kind of the mode they're in, and I do like the addition of Jeudy, just to bring some more life into that room, to help. But with Deshaun, man, it's tough because.
Man, that's a contract y'all about to sign, bro.
I'm glad we didn't do that shit. I'm so glad. I know they glad too. They didn't do that shit. But it's tough to just look over it and just look at that big ass cap hit that you're getting in this fully guaranteed contract to Deshaun, and this whole season just depends on him. We can talk about these other positions all we want to, but let's realistically, and we saw what this team was last year, and they end up bringing back Zadarius Smith too, to kind of run that back. So I mean, we can talk about all the positions we want to, but at the end of the day, it's all up to Deshaun. And if he can find that magic with Kevin Stefanski and put some points on the board, I mean, that's all it boils down to. So it's tough to judge this team until we know how. what Deshaun is like.
I mean, I agree. I mean, the contract. I understand the contract is crazy, but I mean, you gotta look at it. They probably in the toughest division in the NFL. I mean, you got the Ravens, the Bengals, and then you got the Steelers, who no matter how trash quarterback play they get, they always gonna be a winning team. So I mean, they had to do something, but it's a make or break a year for Deshaun. I mean, you seen Joe Flacco come in outside of the playoff game in general, but you see him come in and like Shai said, I mean, he was basically the best quarterback on the team. He came in and played as well as you could ask him to play. You still, I mean, like you said, we'll see about Nick Chubb coming back, but still though, you got Jerry Joe, you got Amari Cooper, you got Njoku. Like your offense is pretty good. Not to mention your defense is excellent. It's been good. It was good all last year for the most part. So, I mean, it's on, like Cass said, it's on Deshaun at this point. I mean, we don't have a draft pick. So ain't no first round person coming in and trying to save us or whatnot. Like you gotta show up. Like I was very disappointed in him last year. Not even gonna lie to you, I was disappointed because I just thought I had, if I'm not mistaken, I had them like first or second in the division.
I think he did, yeah.
I thought he was gonna do something, piss me off.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's on Deshaun this year.
It is on Deshaun this year, and they've made some smart moves outside of even with the contract and its situation going on there. Obviously, they've got the reigning defensive player of the year, so their defense should continue to be excellent with Zadarius Smith coming back. Obviously, Myles Garrett. Another year with Owusu Karamaya, or however you say his last name, but their cornerbacks obviously going to continue to eat. So it's all on him. I mean, it is all on him this year, and it's all on they've obviously brought over another receiver. So now you have Amari, Jerry, and Elijah Moore to go with David Njoku. So like I said, he would be the biggest addition if he continues to play well. He has they have an opportunity to compete with the Ravens. They have done a good job of beating the Bengals over the past few years. So even beat the Ravens this year. So I mean, it looks like they're gonna continue to keep this division, kind of being tough as long as Deshaun Watson comes to show up. But in terms of Nick Chubb, we alluded to that earlier. Do you guys think that is somebody that they should release and kind of move off of that situation? Or do you guys think, obviously, like I mentioned, they added Foreman, they added Naheem Hines. Do you guys think that they should move on from Nick Chubb or should they try to run it back whenever he gets healthy?
At the same time, that was a brutal injury that he suffered last season. And I think you have an opportunity. This is not the strongest draft class for running backs, but you never know. You never know what you can strike gold with. I do think they end up going running back at some point in this draft in the day 2 or 3. And I believe it's going to take that rookie mini camp and all that, see what you got until they make the decision. But I think the decision is to kind of move on from Chubb and just move forward. As tough as it is tough, but for that position, it's the only thing that really makes sense, to be honest.
What about you, Chris?
Man,
it's tough, but
yeah, it's tough. I mean, but if you see the trending, I mean, like they're gonna get rid of him probably. I mean, and it sucked because this was a good year for running backs in free agency. And then to have this injury, and then you on the team, and then ultimately if they decide to release you, you kind of, yeah, they're gonna release him. That shit sucks. I'm thinking about it now. Like, I feel like I think they probably will just go ahead and move on. I mean, they got good production out there running back out when he left, so I mean, you're not gonna keep all these running backs. So
I can see that as well. Unfortunately, giving him an opportunity to rehab throughout the off season if necessary with their facilities, and then cutting their losses maybe post draft. So it'll be ushering in a new era because no more Kareem Hunt, no more Nick Chubb. Like I said, they did bring in 2 running backs, so I could see them going with a rookie running back as well. with one of their earlier picks. So, end of an era, man. Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Nick Chubb. I wonder where he'll end up landing. If he does get released, obviously we don't know yet. But we're all predicting that he will. But moving to the next team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, we've talked about them, a couple times now. 10-7 last year. Really only the biggest losses this year, or key losses, was Deontay Johnson obviously going over to Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Pickett taking the starting job over in Philly. Pat P obviously is still a free agent, and then Mason Rudolph is
hell no.
Heading over to Tennessee. Maybe we'll take a starting job in Tennessee. We'll see. But a lot of additions for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Obviously, the two biggest ones, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. But in the receiving room, Cordell Patterson, Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson. They obviously get Patrick Queen coming over from their rival and the Ravens. Picked up the Dante Jackson in the Deontay Johnson trade, and picked up Deshaun Elliott as well. In terms of their first round pick, what their outlook looks like now with new leadership, both in the QB room as well as in the offensive room with Arthur Smith coming over there. How do you guys feel about the Steelers moving forward?
A lot, especially ending the season and kind of where they're at with Mike Tomlin right now, and him kind of being in that lame duck coach position, and honestly needing to produce. Needing to produce a playoff, produce in the playoffs, at least a playoff win, but especially a run. I think that's where their focus should be, at least trying to get to the championship, AFC championship, and then we'll see from there. But for that to happen, a lot has to go right for them, and a lot has to go right at their quarterback position, and I think a lot of it stems from that. I mean, they have put out a good to great defense over the past however many years. We saw them make the playoffs, win 10 games with lackluster, quarterback play. So at the end of the day, it comes down to that. At 20, it's tough to see exactly what they would do. Because I had a kind of a sense of what they would do until they made the moves to go get Justin along with Russ. So I mean, like, when you're looking at their needs, they could go offensive line. That's always an option. I think they're picking at 20. So you could go interior offensive line. That would be a good spot where you get a guy like a new center in there, like Jackson Powers Johnson, who I really like, and I think that will set them up, nicely going forward. Whenever they find their quarterback of the future. So that's kind of where I see them going. But I mean, it's a big off-season, big season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because if it all goes wrong, we could see a new coach in there, which we haven't seen for a long, long time. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes.
Chris?
It's interesting. As far as their draft position, they're, like Cass said, they're at 20. I was gonna say corner. I still think they could go corner. I know they just picked up Dante Jackson, and then they just drafted Porter last year. So, but I still think they could go cornerback. I think that'd be a good position for them to pick up. And even receiver. I mean, I understand they got these other receivers, but none of them are really that proven to be, a solidified number 2 for Pickens. So I could see them going receiver, but this will be an interesting year though for them.
Quez not proven?
Hell no. Hell no. He got that speed though, but other than that, I mean,
niggas not fans.
I never said I was a fan of Quez. What you mean? I just say he fast as hell. He is though. But yeah, I could see them going receiver or cornerback. But this is gonna be an interesting year for them. I want to know. I wonder do y'all think it will be actual quarterback competition, or you think it's Russ' job to lose?
I think there's a 100% chance that Justin ends up starting at some point this season. Now going into it, I think it is Russ.
This nigga didn't answer the question.
I said going into it, I think it's Russ, and I don't think it's a competition going into it. But I think it will end up being just at the end of the day. If you want to consider that competition or not, I don't really consider that competition because I think everybody knows exactly what's going to happen. I even think they know what's going to happen. So it's hard to say.
To be honest, it's hard to say because, in my opinion, if Cass's scenario goes right, then there's 0% chance that Justin Fields starts, and that's kind of how I feel. Because if you walk into, we're going to go through training camp. If you're seeing that Justin Fields Justin Fields, we got to stop giving him the notion that he's some rookie quarterback. Justin Fields has been playing for some years. He's got tape out. So at this point,
he ain't no vet.
I mean, shit, it's his fourth year. I think what they get they're vested veterans at the 4 years, ain't it? It's his fourth year, shit. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's at the 4 years. But with that being said, if you get through training camp and you're like, Justin Fields is not that guy, like I'm not gonna be like, he's not gonna be that relief pitcher that all of a sudden is gonna be, because you're gonna have to sign him right after. So I do think that they will go through with a full quarterback competition. They want to give Russ the respect, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to see, because like I've been saying, putting your future in the hands of Russ at this point and Justin Fields is really dicey. So you gotta know exactly what you're getting into, because it's going to be a full season thing. So I really don't think that if one of them is starting, I don't think that we see the other one coming in. So whether that's Justin or Russ, unless it's an injury. So I do think that they have to go with a full QB competition, and we'll see. May the best man win.
We'll see. What do you think they do at 20?
Let Russ cook.
And Cam Hayward has already came out and put a little bit of support behind Russ, saying it'll be nice to have some veteran presence in the room and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting to see. But in terms of what I see them doing at 20, they do a good job of evaluating the receiver position, and this is supposed to be a deep receiver class, so I don't see them going receiver that early. So I'll also say they will go offensive lineman with a sneaky look at edge rusher, because Alex Highsmith is obviously performing well. TJ Watt, but if you want to say edge rusher or interior lineman, however you want to do it, but Cam Hayward's obviously getting up there in age. Yeah. TJ Watt's still getting up there in age. He has been injured, was injured last year. He has his nicks and stuff like that. So, and then like his brother, his brother probably could have played a couple more years before he retired. They're not in the same age right now, but that could be a factor as well.
That's fair.
That's where I'll be looking. But moving to the last team, and last but not least, the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, and probably the team with probably the biggest pending question mark in T. Higgins. 9-8 last year. Had some pretty tough losses in DJ Reader. Obviously, Joe Mixon got traded over to the Texans. We assume that Tyler Boyd is not going back there at this point. He's been rumored to be going to the Steelers, but it looks like talks may have broken down. And then Awuzie obviously going to the Tennessee Titans. In terms of their additions, they replaced Mixon with Zach Moss, who had a pretty good year with the Colts last year. Mike Gesicki comes in at the tight end position. Trent Brown comes over from the Patriots, and then Geno Stone comes over from their rival as well with the Ravens. What do you think their outlook looks like, and what do you guys think happens with T. Higgins and in terms of their first round pick? Where do you think it goes?
Yeah, looks like they're trying to get another one for. Yeah, looks like they're trying to get another one for T. Which probably ain't happening. Yes, I agree. But this is a team that we just have to see if Joe Burrow comes back healthy, and you got his money. He got his money. The next up is Jamar Chase. Of course, you're probably waiting for Jamar Chase. You're probably waiting for Justin Jefferson contract if you are Jamar Chase. So that might be a little while, but yeah, T. Higgins is a big question mark. He's a very important piece of that team, and it could kind of shape the way that their draft goes. Like right now, I have them going for cornerback in the first round. Whoever that is still there at 18, whether that's Terrion Arnold or whoever is there, probably him. I would pick there. Nate. I don't like that fit too much, but yeah, maybe Nate Wiggins. But I see them going cornerback at the same time. If you get rid of T. Higgins before this draft, it's obvious need for receiver after losing 2, assuming they don't get Tyler Boyd back. So do you try to trade up? I know we talked about scenarios like that shot already in our last mock draft, I believe. You had them trading up to 8, and grabbing, I think Odunze was there. So it's still an option on the table right now for them to try to trade up and get a young receiver that's that you kind of need to be young and less cost against the cap, especially with Joe's contract and Jamar's pending contract. So yeah, I mean, it just makes the most sense right there to go young at receiver. So those are the 2 positions. As far as I think there'll still be competing for division lead as long as everybody stays healthy. I don't have too many concerns about this team going forward. There are some things you got to kind of figure out defensively from a schematic standpoint going forward, but I think we'll see how that all shakes out in the offseason. But yeah.
Speak up, Chris.
Man, look, I don't know what the hell they gonna do with T. Higgins, man. That's a tough situation because I actually think he's pretty good.
We know.
I just think this past year, he was hurt, so he was in and out of the lineup. That shit tough one, especially for a.
He's on your fantasy team, wasn't he?
But when he played. When he didn't, sold me.
Still had one of the plays of the year that
he did. That's why I
said
that shit tough. Like you got it. I don't know. I don't think you're gonna get a first for him. I personally would try to figure out how to keep him. But as far as draft, I think they could go O lineman, man. They gotta do whatever they can do to keep Joe Burrow upright, because that's the issue. That's one of the biggest issues that they have is that his injuries and him trying to play through the injuries, and he's still getting sacked, and it's a tough situation for them. So I feel like they need to bolster that O line. I get the receiver aspect, especially if you do lose T. Higgins, and we all assuming that Tyler Boyd's not coming back. I do get that, but you're paying Joe Burrow. You gotta protect that man, and him being hurt, him not playing throughout the year, you just wasting your money at this point.
The Trent Brown signing, but there's always room to upgrade that whole line. So yeah,
and the thing about the O lineman, because I mean they do have Trent Brown, Orlando Brown, Alex Kappa, who are all have been proven. Cody Ford has been decent,
Yeah.
So in terms of the offensive line, at some point we have to, in my opinion, we have to kind of look at Joe Burrow, because even coming out of college, he was one of the, his sack percentage wasn't great. His actually, for his sack percentage was up there with the Justin Fields of the world and other guys that take sacks frequently.
The more mobile guys too,
and typically that isn't something that you would find in a franchise quarterback. And obviously he's been good enough to exceed that, but we'll see how long that lasts. So in terms of what I see them doing moving forward, I kind of see them doing kind of like what the I guess the Titans and the Eagles did, on where T. Higgins is traded on draft day. I think that a team like the Panthers, who just picked up a second round pick from trading for getting that trade for Brian Burns, they should send that over. There's the Giants second round pick, try to send that over to Cincinnati. They did take DJ Turner last year in the second round. They got Cam Taylor-Britt and Mike Hilton, still in the nickel. So I can see them waiting and maybe getting a corner if they do get that second round pick and getting a corner there. So I think they would love if Brian Thomas is there in the first round. But if he's not, I think more importantly, they would look at D tackle actually, and look at a Johnny Newton or Brian Murphy. Now that they did lose DJ Reader, and he was a huge part of what they did defensively and how good they were, and have been over the past few years. So that's where I think they lean, looking at the interior defensive line if they can't get, the LSU boy, obviously keep the LSU train running. So that's what I see Cincinnati doing this year. But with that being said, man, we can go ahead and get into the mock draft. Mock draft time, month before the draft, like I said. We can go through our top 12. We obviously did top 10, a few episodes back. But a lot of shit has shook since then. A lot of shit has gone down. So which one of y'all niggas want to start it off? Speak up.
Let's get it. Go ahead, Chris. You want to go? You want to be the Bears?
Yeah, I'll be the Bears, and I am taking Caleb Williams, pick 1.
Okay.
I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, at this point,
It's pretty much a done deal.
It's pretty much a done deal. I mean, if they do some other bullshit, they goofy here. I ain't even gonna go about that.
Okay. I'll do number 2.
Okay. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, so I think Washington at this point, I think they're definitely going quarterback. It's been a lot of back and forth between Drake May, Jaden Daniels, even JJ McCarthy's name has been slid in there these past couple of weeks as a possibility there. But I think a lot of that is smoke. It could not. I mean, I could be dead wrong about this, but I'm gonna go Drake May. I feel like he is the type of quarterback that Dan Quinn and Cliff could like there, and kind of build around. I think he's the type of quarterback that, especially with weapons like Terry, God, I'm blanking on the other receiver. But especially a weapon like Terry, you need a big arm quarterback like this. So I think it'll go well for that team for sure. So I'm gonna go Drake May, UNC.
Yeah, and if, in my opinion, if I think Drake May is probably the best. Not probably. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. So if the Patriots or if the Washington Commanders decide to go with Jaden Daniels or somebody else, I think the Patriots sprint with that Drake May ticket up. But I still think they stick with the quarterback. I'm still rocking with what I did, the last draft that we did have. I do think the Patriots go with a JJ McCarthy.
Okay.
I think that Jaden Daniels sees the biggest slide of the projected quarterbacks. And so I got the New England Patriots taking JJ McCarthy out of Michigan.
Interesting. All right, Chris. Cardinals, what you doing? You keeping? You trading? What's up?
So with the Cardinals, I'm gonna just go ahead and take who's there. I'm gonna go ahead and take Marvin Harrison Jr. Go ahead pair him up with Kyler Murray. I think this is a big year for Kyler. This is a year that Kyler need to show if he's going to be their franchise quarterback moving forward, and this is a good opportunity. You get a good big body receiver that's going to make some plays. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with Marvin Harrison.
Okay. All right, the Chargers, very interesting team. They can do a lot of different things from this position. They could go receiver with a guy like Malik Neighbors. They could go O-line, which we know Harbaugh likes. They could trade back and kind of, just pile up their assets going forward. But I am going to stick with what Jim Harbaugh has been saying these last couple of weeks, especially last week at the owners and coaches meetings, where he talked about all the build in front of trenches, and we already knew that that's his MO. So with that being said, I am going to go with the best lineman on the board at this spot, and I'm gonna go with Joe Alt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just go ahead. Giants gonna do it. Sprint up to the table, Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
They're getting that LSU receiver back in the fold. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go New York Giants, going with Malik Neighbors to bring a different receiver over with Daniel Jones, and maybe Drew Lock. Shit.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I gotta like. So you think Neighbors is a better fit there than Roma Dunze, as far as what you already have there with Wandale and Jalen?
I think that with Malik Neighbors being as young as he is, number one, as productive as he is, I'm not saying that he's going to be necessarily better than Roma Dunze, but in terms of what they would be looking at to draft, I definitely think they go with him.
Okay. I know you were going for Joe Alt right here, so let's see what you kind of cook
I
up.
was. I still think they could take another lineman, but I'm gonna shake some stuff up. Go ahead and draft Romeo Dunze. Go ahead.
Okay. Kind of
going receiver.
Prepping for the future there.
Hey, you gotta get. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you got to figure out what your quarterback situation is, man. You gotta build around something. So I feel like at this point, hey, get him what he can get and see what you got. You know?
I mean, you got 30-year-old receivers, so you got to go young at some point. Maybe this is the year.
My thing is this redundancy
with the Falcons,
of receiver.
Same type. Yeah, that's true.
Who?
D-Hop, Calvin Ridley, Treylon Burks, and
man, they gonna get rid of one of them. I'm telling you, Treylon Burks ain't it either. So, but I'm gonna hold that down. Maybe. Go ahead.
Falcons right here at number 8. Of course, we've been going. They're widely mocked to get the first defensive player off the board. And I think in this one, I'm going to stick true with that one, with that sentiment, and I'm gonna go with Leatu Latu from UCLA as their edge. Of course, there's that familiarity that they have with Latu and the defense coordinator for the Falcons, Jimmy Lake. He was there, recruited him. He was there, in Latu's first year. And I think he has. I get the injury concerns with Latu. Of course, he had to medically retire for a couple of years in college, which is always a concern. But I think the tools are still there. He's not the most athletically gifted one of the top 3 edges that we have with Verse and Turner, but I think he just gets it. And you talk about the Falcons window. I don't know if the window, especially with them not getting another edge in free agency, I think you don't have that kind of room to kind of wait and see if Dallas Turner kind of puts it together with all the athletic tools that he has. So I think that's kind of why I will push them to get a Latu over him, personally.
And for the Bears, this is actually where we see our first trade. So the Las Vegas Raiders are going to trade up with the Chicago Bears. You might not be able to do it on this, but go to the next. Drop down arrow.
The drop down arrow. So where you mocking them to get?
So they'll give up their first this year, second, and a second next year.
Just to move up 4 spots.
Just to move up. Because they have in their, I'm thinking that what they're thinking is that the Vikings, they want to jump the Vikings and maybe their force trade. It might be a little bit more than that, but they're trying to jump the Vikings and Denver, which I don't think either of those teams are particularly interested in Jaden Daniels, but the Raiders, like we mentioned, have the familiarity there, and I think the Raiders go with Jaden Daniels at number 9.
Okay. We're just gonna go with that. We're just gonna draft Jaden Daniels there for sure. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Who I got the Jets. This was tough, so I think they could use the receiver. But I'm gonna go tackle. I'm gonna go JC Latham. I'm gonna need. They gonna need some more. Like I said earlier, I think for them going all in, they need to do their best to protect Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you really can't protect them on that MetLife turf, but you still need to bolster up that offensive line. So I'm gonna go JC Latham.
I agree with that. With Minnesota, of course, they made the move to get an extra first round pick from Houston down at 23, and of course, everybody's assuming that they would be a team that would try to move up. I think if they want to move up, I think they should do it before the draft starts. But here they're at 11. They did not move up. So I'm going to go on a defensive side of things, and I'm going to go with the edge rusher. I'm going to go with edge rusher here, and I'm going to go with Dallas Turner to kind of work on the opposite side.
Okay, so with the Vikings going with Dallas Turner, I thought that edge could be a possibility here. Cornerback could also be a possibility here. But I think that we stopped the slide of Brock Bowers, and I think Brock Bowers ends up a Denver Bronco, and Sean Payton kind of builds an offense around him.
That'll be ooh.
That's some shaking up shit. Okay,
I would like to see it. I would.
Sean ain't gonna know what to do with that, man.
Nah. This is Sean. All right.
Who
Who throwing the ball? Jared Stidham.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Hey, he might be a Falcon.
What? I rebuke.
Go ahead.
I rebuke that.
But to be honest, the thing. So in terms of the mock that we just did, we obviously saw Jaden Daniels. Because of the pick that I decided to go with, we saw Jaden Daniels kind of fall a little bit. In that scenario, or just maybe not in just that scenario, what do you guys think about, obviously the Vikings showing their hand kind of early, and what they do, how they pivot if they don't get a quarterback?
Makes sense if you do like guys in the bottom of, like, if you do like the 5th and 6th quarterback, if you like a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix, to where you necessarily don't want to wait until the second round, and you can go with wherever you're going to go with the 11th pick, whether that's edge or lineman or anything like that, and then pick up that second after your second pick at 23, pick up that quarterback, so that you do have him on that 5th-year option if you do think he's the guy. So I think it's not too much of a if they don't trade up, or if they can't trade up, it's not like detrimental. Depends on what their plan is, because we really don't know who all they like, from this draft class at quarterback. So I don't think it's too much of a big deal, them showing their hand a little early. Of course, and we're all going to make it a big deal because it's like, oh man, they need a quarterback. It just makes sense that they'll trade it up. But I think there's still options to go, even if you keep 11 at 23. I think you can still field a decent team.
I think it would be a bigger deal had they been like at pick like 6, because now it's like, okay, well, how you gonna like you're closer to an opportunity to get the best quarterback, or regarded one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. But them being that far back, people know they can't. I mean, they have to move moon, star, earth, everything to get all the way in the front. So they know that can move that much forward. So, and with the teams that are in that area that you can move forward to get a quarterback, they don't really necessarily looking for one. So I think it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I do think that we're gonna see a bit of a backlash if they don't end up getting a quarterback. Even though I do think it is a smart play that they don't, for if it does, a lot of the rumors has been they want to get JJ McCarthy or Drake May.
Yeah.
If they don't end up being that 4th pick, I don't see anything wrong with not forcing it, and maybe even trying to do a trade back from 11, and then continuing to build that roster, because at this point, I mean, you do have a pretty good offense in Aaron Jones coming over there. Obviously, Jordan Addison when TJ Hawkinson comes back, and then you obviously have Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold, hoping that he can do his thing, maybe be a reclamation project. Even maybe taking a flyer on a Zach Wilson. That could be an option there, or Trey Lance. There was rumors of him going there for a long time. So I don't think that it would be they should force it or if it's not there for them. So I'm interested. It's going to be crazy because it's mock draft season. It's rumor season. Everybody's mocking. Now it's 6 quarterbacks going in the first round, and Nix is going to go 12, Penix is going to go 13. And it's not to say that it can't happen. Just history shows that at max you're going to get that 4. Even what I think the Baker Lamar, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold, that was one of the best ever, and that had 5, and it took Lamar getting picked with the last pick, I believe, in the first round. So we just saw last year, it was all the noise was supposed to be quarterbacks was a top 4. Everybody and their mama with quarterback needs passed on Will Levis, in the end, and he didn't go into the second round. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Part of the reason that I think that, Jaden Daniels as opposed to J.J. McCarthy might take the slide is because J.J. McCarthy is the youngest quarterback. And we've obviously seen and on top of Jaden Daniels being tiny. So I do think that there's a good chance we see a quarterback slide. So I'm excited. I'm interested to see, what quarterback Minnesota's targeting and how they go about it. But with that being said, man, 4 more weeks to the draft?
3, actually, yeah. 3 from tomorrow.
Some teams are starting their offseason program already. So it's just getting closer and closer until we get more and more answers. And, as we get closer to the draft, we'll also get, also see a little bit more free agent signings as well, before and post draft. So looking forward to it, man. And
let's talk about Rashee Rice. Hold on.
Yeah.
We got to. So, news.
Trying to be like everybody else, not talking about it. Rashee Rice, man. Rashee Rice. So, for everybody that doesn't know, Rashee Rice may have been the driver or was a passenger in a multi-car wreck, and then him and his friends fled the scene. Led to initially what we thought could possibly be a significant injury. Further reports has been saying that it's not that bad of an injury, and he's now cooperating with the police. But in terms of the situation and in terms of what you guys see for, in terms of maybe a suspension, what is it, commissioner's list or whatever, what do you guys what do you guys foresee for Rashee Rice?
Kind of worse, but the more that comes out about it and the legit possibility that he wasn't driving and kind of the laws around it, I don't see too much of a suspension that happens from here. I think if it was a bigger deal, we would know, we would have something. Something would come out from the Chiefs and all that, or the NFL, about the possibility of stuff from the insiders and stuff. So I don't think it's too much of a big deal. It is a bad situation that he has himself in. And of course now, there was a report that was saying that he wasn't turning himself in and shit like that. But of course we got the statement today that he's cooperating with Dallas police and, as
on his Instagram story.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think it's too bad. I think he's really lucky that it wasn't as bad as an accident. No, nobody was killed, you know what I mean? So, which takes it to a whole nother level. But fleeing the scene of an accident is bad because then all the conspiracies come out and all the guesses of what was he trying to hide? Was he drunk? Did he have weapons? We've seen all this stuff, of course, on Twitter this past few days. So it's it leads that up to interpretation, leads it up to suspicion.
Did he steal the cars?
Yeah, shit like that.
I bet he stole them.
That shit's nuts,
people just say it.
They just say whatever,
They
bro.
just say
Like,
anything.
how you think we really stole a Lambo and a Corvette, nigga? Like, come on now. Like, come on now.
Yeah. So like when that first, I think it was like not soon after like the stuff started coming out from TMZ, they were like, oh, there were reports that they saw him bring a bag of guns out the trunk and shit like that. I'm like, all right, guys, y'all doing too much now. Like,
How y'all know there's guns in the bag?
So yeah, I don't think it'll be that bad. Like looking at it and where we're at now with it, I don't think it's too bad. I think there will be something, whether that is a fine, I don't know what they'll label as conduct detrimental. I don't know, but I don't think it'd be too. If it is a suspension, I don't think it'd be more than like 2 games. You know what I mean? But I don't really think it gets that at this point.
The only thing I disagree with is not knowing what it could possibly be. Because the NFL, they typically try to keep stuff under wraps as much as they can. They don't want bad publicity. So they're not going to put that out there whether or not they want to suspend him for however long. Now, it does bold the question of why did you leave? That's the only thing. That's the most important part about it outside of the accident. Because, I mean, there was no like deaths or anything like, but it just breeds like, why did you walk away? Like, what was your thought of in broad daylight that you felt like I got into an accident, let me just walk away and just flee the scene? Like, I get, like you said, everybody with the speculation of it was he had 50 AKs, he was ready to go lock and load, about to go run up on somebody, take some shit. He already stole the car. He was hot boy. But I'm just saying, like, in my opinion, just like, okay, that's going to be the thing of the situation is when they find out, why did you leave? What was the reason? But at
that point, what could be proven? Yeah, exactly.
What he had.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if you could prove that because obviously we don't see no guns, we don't see anything like that, so you can't really prove what was taken and why. But I guess that's just the thing. So I could see him getting the 2-game suspension, maybe, or you know what, they might leave it up to Kansas City Chiefs after they break down what the law is and what could be the actual legal aspect. They might leave it up to the Chiefs to discipline them.
So first of all, what a bad decision, just a very bad decision by all of them in the car.
Yeah.
Number one, in my opinion, the actions after kind of tell you what really went down. If you were a passenger, why would you leave? So I probably can assume that he might have been the driver there. If you were the passenger, why would you leave? With both the cars being in your name,
it's tough.
Let's
that's tough. Both
like let's really think about this here. Unless y'all are both just slow.
And then you see people with their cameras out too. Like you see people taking your pictures.
And you never know. He might have been advised to have been like, "Yo, get the fuck on." Like we'll figure it out after. Like get the fuck on. Like go. Like go now. So I mean, it's that might have been the smartest decision that was made. The entire, getting out of there, and then now nobody, I mean, nobody can say that you were driving definitively. Unless they have some type of video, because you never know nowadays. Unless they have some type of video of somebody like zooming
traffic
in
light
on your
video
face
or something like some miles back.
That part didn't make too much sense to me. But like you said, initially I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. And I'm glad that there weren't any fatalities or anything like that. So lucky him on that one, because it could have been a situation like Henry Ruggs, rest in peace to the victim in that situation, and her dog
yeah,
but it's not funny. But it really could have gotten a lot worse. So luckily that none of that happened. But I do see a situation where it's probably a 3-game suspension, and maybe they do like they appeal it and it drops to like a 1-game or a 2-game, because they're like, hey, it's the Chiefs. I mean, it's the champions, like all that stuff. But lucky him, man. Lucky him, because it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse, and it somebody was saying it seems that, you know, we typically are a lot lighter on, you know, vehicular charges when there's not like a death involved. So, you know, that's also something to keep in mind as well. So, lucky, very lucky, very lucky, very lucky. I'm sure the Chiefs are like, damn, we moved off of Tyreek Hill just for you to come here and fuck shit up too. Like, come on, bro. Like, lock in. Like
chill.
you just won a Super Bowl like 2 months ago, dude. Like, come on. But we'll see. I'm interested to see how the rest of it plays out. But I think that also, I think that kind of locks the Kansas City Chiefs into a receiver at the end of the first round for sure. They're like, hey, these niggas trying to fumble the bag out here, you know. So literally, they fumbling catches, they fumbling the bag outside. So I mean, hey, we need to get somebody like Lab McConkey that ain't gonna come in and do nothing.
Get you one of the scrappy guys in.
Get you the white boy, scrappy. You know, he's sneaky athletic. But all right, y'all, man, that gives us a wrap to episode 31 of the Speak Up Sports podcast, man. We'll catch y'all again next week.